Hello, boys and ghouls. I'm RF Blackstone with another episode of Behind the Keyboard. Today, my guest is Mike Duke. He's the author of Lo, Ashley's Tale, Where the Gods Sleep, Fear of the Gods, and Amalgam. Enjoy. Mike, thank you so much for coming on today. It's a great pleasure. I'm a fan.
Oh, cool. Glad to be here.
You say that now. So, doing a bit of research on you, prior to doing this, you seem to have a very interesting life pre-author.
Yeah,
you've got
still some of it still there.
So you've got almost 12 years as a cop. That's what your official bio says. You're now teaching tactical and off-road driving to
high speed, tactical, off-road, high-speed off-road. Yeah, mostly to military, but sometimes to bodyguards or corporate groups, sometimes to private citizens, especially like corporate retreats, stuff like that for guys to have a good time. We'll do some of the high-speed driving and different things. At times I've taught over the years a lot of hand-to-hand combative stuff. I've been in the martial arts for like 30 years since I was in high school.
Wow.
And done a lot of different ones and taught a lot of that stuff too for military, law enforcement, bodyguards, and private citizens and whatnot.
Okay, so how did you get into all that?
Okay, so I always wanted to do martial arts from the time I was probably 9 or 10. But I didn't really get a chance to until my senior year in high school. And I started taking, me and a good friend, we started taking karate after a summer where his neighbor taught us a little bit of kung fu and whatnot. And that guy, he was a small guy, but he was a badass. I literally held the board for him, and we're not talking like typical karate boards, like this. He had a piece of wood that would go under trailers where you would like household trailers where you would have the concrete blocks and then sit the trailer on top of it.
Wow.
This thing was probably like this thick, this by this. And there was this we were on a playground, and there was this big slide, and we used the steps in the slide to put it on one side, and then I just held it like that, and that dude broke it like that. His fingertips. I was like, whoa, like that is badass. I want to be able to do something like that. And so I got into martial arts with my buddy in high school, and I ran with it. I loved it. At first I was just in karate, and I was working on getting my black belt. And when I decided to become a police officer, I was going to college, and my intent early on was to I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to look into journalism. And so I wanted to write and teach, because even back then I was thinking about being an English lit teacher with a minor in journalism and then writing. And I was going to college for that. I got married, and then my wife and I got pregnant with her son. And it's like, okay, you're in the real world now, you got to find a job, right? And so I thought about it a lot, and I decided that law enforcement was something that I could do, that I felt like I could make a difference and be a good guy. And we looked at it, and in the local town, or city, where I grew up around, they were, looking for somebody. And I went through all of the the interviews and the test and all that kind of stuff, And they were like, yeah, you look great, local guy, this, that, and the other. We like you, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of put all my eggs in one basket. And at the last second, the city council decided that they wanted to take somebody who was already certified, that they didn't have to put through the academy and spend the money on that. So last second, boom, not going to happen. You're number one on the list for the next year, and if we are able to hire, but not right now. And so I had to scramble to find a job. I ended up working for this place called, oh God, Franklin Equipment. They built logging tractors, and I worked on a brake press. And it was like the most horrible job I've ever done in my life. I came home the first day and I told my wife, screw this, I'm not going back. But I went back because I knew I had to make, money, support the family. And every day for like the first 2 weeks was kind of like that. Screw this, I'm not going back. But I did, and learned some valuable life lessons. And like 9 months later, I ran into the chief of police in a grocery store after work one day. And he was like, hey, are you still interested in that job? And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, so everything fell into place. I got hired. That was like July of 1994. And I took off with it, and I enjoyed the job. I was well liked in the community, even amongst some of the bad guys. They were like, I would come up on a scene sometimes, and they were like, I want to talk to Duke. I know Duke's fair, I want to talk to Duke. I had a good reputation for slamming people if they were being bad. I was very good at taking people down and putting them in joint locks and and stuff like that, and ending things real quick with all the martial arts stuff that I practiced and did. When I went through the police academy, I ended up meeting some other guys, and that was right at when like the UFC first kicked off. I remember us going and getting together, some of us guys from the police academy that were into martial arts, and watching UFC 2. Right, I think it was number 2. They were like 2 or 3 that we got together and watched. So that was really in the early days when the Brazilian jiu-jitsu thing was first kind of taken off, right? And so I got into that. I started going to some classes, driving all the way like an hour and a half away, like 2 or 3 times a month to go up there for like 4 hours at a shot and train. And I got into wrestling, and then got into Muay Thai, and eventually did some Kung Fu that was heavy on joint locks, which was good for, being able to, get people under control. And eventually years later got into a lot of Indonesian and the Filipino martial arts with the stick, and then a lot of blade stuff. That was over the last like 10 years. I did a lot of the Filipino blade stuff. But that was kind of my track going through that. And I was on the SWAT team for a little while. I was teaching the hand-to-hand stuff at the police academy for a number of years. I taught it for our SWAT team and another one in the area. And then I had issues with some new administrators that came in. We were a small police department. We had like a 28, 30-man department.
Okay.
And this guy came in, and within 1 year, 14 people left.
Oh, geez.
Which should be called a clue. Should be a clue. But I ended up leaving, and I had a chance to go and teach part-time at a professional training center, doing the hand-to-hand stuff and some firearm stuff. I had a certification in that to teach back then through the police academy, which my cert still held with me for a while. The academy knew what the deal was, and they actually volunteer and come up there to keep my search good for a while.
Oh,
And so I was doing that. And then at the training center that I was working at, part-time, they had a high-speed and tactical driving instructor school come up. And the guy who had helped me get down there to begin with was like, I can get you in, but it's sink or swim, And I was like, put me in, coach. And it was a tough, 5-day class, long hours, but tough, but I made it through, passed. And they had lots of work. And I started, working with them part-time right away. And within like 3 months, they liked me. They brought me on as a full-time guy, full-time driving instructor, and still got to do the hand-to-hand stuff as they had, need for it, here and there. So been doing that almost 15 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You must really enjoy it.
It's fun. It really is fun. I mean, you get to drive crazy and do all kinds of wild stuff, in the vehicles. And, there's enough variety too, that it doesn't get old. We have days where it's the fundamental stuff. Then there's days where we do, off-road or high-speed off-road, or we do the tactical stuff and, teach guys how to like ram through vehicles or put them out like you see on cops, or we'll do other platforms like, high center gravity vehicles like Suburbans and up armored Suburbans or Humvees or, pickup trucks, and stuff like that, doing the same kind of, stuff. So then we have our days where we put everything together, and there's these big mock attack scenarios, and we have simulated explosions, and we play the bad guys and chase them, and they get the chance to pit us back, and we let them ram through cars, under attack, and all this kind of stuff, so
damn, that sounds so much fun.
Oh, it is. It is. It can get rough on the body over the years. I've had my injuries, too. But it is a blast, and you get to go out there sometimes too and just give people a good time. Like sometimes we'll do it with the regular students at the end of the day, or they got somebody they want to impress or try, whatnot. They'll put them in the car with us, and we'll go out there and haul ass around the track and then drift it all around and, do J turns and all kinds of stuff and sling them around and give them a good time, and that kind of stuff for a little bit. And so it's fun. It really is. It's fun.
It certainly sounds like it, and you got this big grin on this, so you must still love doing all of it.
Oh yeah.
With all that training and all just that whole life experience, basically, how do you go from that to writing horror instead of writing, say, a thriller or more action adventure kind of stories?
Well, I do throw a good bit of action in some of my books, not all of them, but I do work it in there. My the Ashley's Tale series that I have works in some hand-to-hand and blade stuff and some attacks and has some action, elements to it. Low, so Ashley's Tale was the first thing I actually published. So I initially self-published that. And then later on, when I got to book 3, Stitched Mouths, who had published Low by that point, they picked up book 3 and they went and picked up the first 2 and republished them under them. So I did some additional edits and stuff to them, and then re-released, the first 2 along with, book 3. But I had been working on Low, which was really my first one for several years. I started writing that in it's either 2008 or 2009. I had gone for years and hadn't done anything. I really wanted to do it when I was in high school, and just out of high school, and then life happened, got away from it. At one point, I think it was around 2003 or 4, I started just writing poetry again. And then it was either 2008 or 2009 was when I decided that, I'm going to give this whole, writing a story thing a shot again. And I started writing low, and I spent a few months on it intermittently. And initially, Low was a more of a novella, only about what turns out to be one of the bad guys in the book, Chad. And I got done with it, and this was crazy at the time, man. It like about killed me. But I had a guy that was at a martial arts school I was going to that was an IT dude and a computer dude. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I, we had these two big, nice mahogany desks she had gotten, like through Goodwill or Facebook Marketplace or something for cheap, but they were really nice. And we had them sitting side by side, and we both had our own computers. And so he's like telling me that he could set something up that linked the computers and create this shared folder, and I could drop something in it, and my wife could read it, and give me feedback and blah, blah, blah. And he came over, he set it up. And then later that day, my wife got home, and I was like, hey, check this out. See, I can put this file in here. And I dropped the one file I had of Low in there because I wasn't backing up stuff at that point. I dropped the one file in there, and then I slide over to her computer and say, see, I can pull it up here, and you can read it and blah, 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 and all this. And I'm like, and it's good. And I said, and if you're done with it, you can, not thinking, I said, you can delete it. And I took it and I dragged it and dropped it into a bin or something. And then I went back over to my computer and I said, and I can pull it up. Where the hell is it?
Oh, no.
Oh, dude, panic. I go back over to her computer and try to find it in the bin. Gone, not there. Right. I'm trying to, look in my computer, her computer, and, figure out, doing a search, blah, blah, blah. Nothing, dude. It's like it's disappeared into the, into the, internet gods, heaven, hell, whatever. I don't know. Limbo, right? So then, in an act of desperation, I thought, because I'm not an IT computer guy, but I thought, I'll do a system restore to an earlier point, right? And that'll work. Oh no. Turned out that made it much worse. So that night when I couldn't get anything working, and I called the guy, and he was like, oh, that was bad, kind of thing. Like, I wanted to go to the ABC store, but it was too late. It was on a Sunday and they were closed. I felt nauseous, dude. I felt sick. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to start scene by scene. I'm going to describe the scene, write out anything that I can remember, specific phrases, descriptions, anything like that, and I'm going, so I started doing that, and I spent the rest of that, evening and the next couple of days, anytime I had free time, just doing that. And then a guy that I worked with, he was actually also a lawyer, and he knew somebody who did recovery on stuff for like criminal cases, particularly, with like divorces or, child porn, or, anything like that. I mean, he was like at government level, right? Good. And did that kind of stuff. And so I sent the hard drive to him, and it turned out that if I had not done the system restore, it would have been a pretty easy deal for him to just retrieve the file. But when I did the system restore, it basically like pulled the file apart and scattered it to the four winds. So what I got back from him was one chunk of about 12 pages, and then everything else was fragments. Like sentence fragments and a few words here and there, and a sentence here and a sentence there, and all this kind of stuff. And so I spent days organizing it like a puzzle, right? Like figuring out what phrases went. And then where I had detailed out every scene, I was dropping phrases and sentences and stuff into each of those scenes, to
Oh
try and
man.
reconstruct. And it worked out though, because as I'm doing this, I realized that there was more there I could tell. And instead of just writing something that was strictly uh, a tragedy about a piece of shit guy like Chad, right? Not learning from his mistakes, that I could take the character of Mark Adams that was in there for just a little bit
And
and create a sub story, a parallel story with him, turn him into a major character along with Chad, and do more with it, right? And so, it really sucked at the time, but if that hadn't happened, I probably never would have been forced into that and then had, the ideas to develop it like I
yeah.
did, which I think turned out great. And it took a lot of work, but it's still my longest novel that I've written. It's like 125,000, words,
Jeez.
430 pages. Um, but yeah, man, that was crazy.
Oh man,
But
that definitely that's a kind of like a horror story you hear. Like, you go into most of the
yes.
writer Facebook groups, and someone always talks about, oh, I had this one little problem, and then I did this on my laptop, and it just made it a million times worse.
Yes.
So I gather you now back everything up.
Oh God, yeah. And I back stuff up. I like every time I get done writing for a day, I will send it to myself in an email, right?
Right.
So that there's always multiple copies, that I can access. Like even if my computer dies, right? I can go and pull it up. And um my wife, she uses Google Docs at work, and she's like, that's great because it saves it there and you
Yeah.
can pull it up. And I've thought about, doing that, but yeah, man, right after that happened, I would have uh 3 thumb drives at all time that had I did like get done writing, and I would like plug them in and save.
Was it that I do that? I've got everything gets saved onto my laptop's hard drive. I then do everything on Google Drive as well. And then I've also got the, an external USB that everything gets backed up onto.
Yep. Yes,
Oh,
it is a horror when it happens. No doubt
oh yeah.
about it.
I'm surprised no author's written that horror story just for authors.
That
File
would be
that wouldn't
good.
save.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think I'll do that
But
now.
speaking to like the action stuff that took
Yeah.
us down that rabbit hole, so Low has some mixed in with some arrest scenes and fight
Yeah.
scenes, and stuff like that. And um, Hate Inexorable, one of my short ones, that's got it all. I mean, I put all kinds of stuff in there as far as
Okay.
hand-to-hand, blade, using a car as a weapon. I mean, like everything that's in there is something that I can do or I've taught people to do,
Right.
you
Okay.
know. um, and so I threw a bunch of stuff in there on that one just to see how it would go and how people would respond. And it's mixed in with an extreme a story that has extreme,
Yep.
horror aspects to it. I never, I know, I don't like torture porn
Hmm.
kind of thing, or what people would refer to as that. Some of that stuff, I just, as a person who's studied, martial arts, the like blade stuff, and you learn about bleed out times, about what happens when you stab people here, cut them here, how's the body going to respond,
Hmm.
and all this kind of stuff. And then with firearms, with ballistics, terminal ballistics, and the what the impact is depending on different things and how it's going to affect the body, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So when I see people writing scenes where they're causing people to bleed excessively, and it goes on and on and on, and I'm like, dude, this person is at least unconscious by now and not going to feel anything or respond to anything you do, or they're dead by now, right? Hypovolemic shock,
Yeah.
this stuff is kicking in. This ain't happening, or like you see movies where somebody gets stabbed like right here, and I'm like, dude, that's the aortic arch. You're right at the top of the heart where everything pumps out. They're gonna bleed out like a stuck pig, and then they just get a little bit of medical attention, and then they're running and gunning the rest of the movie. And I'm like, dude, you should have moved that somewhere else, not there.
So you're not big on the suspension of disbelief in regards to certain things.
Certain things,
yeah.
No. But I like. I've written a couple of things that are cosmic horror, but
yeah, that's actually how I got introduced to your work.
Okay.
Where the Gods Sleep, Fear the Gods, love them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some action aspects in places in there. Fear the Gods has got the action and some creature feature aspects mixed in with the cosmic horror. And I love to mix that stuff in.
Yeah.
So I try it. It's a struggle to balance things. You don't want to bog things down with overly descriptive stuff.
Yeah.
I want to be accurate, but I don't want to bog it down. And like when I wrote Ashley's Tale, the third book in that, The Initiation, which in my opinion is, if it's not the best thing I've written, it's like the second best, probably, that book, the part 3 of that. But there's one scene in there where it's just crazy. You're talking like in a small area in a house, somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 people, I think, go at it, right?
Wow.
And it's knockdown, drag out, two sides, about 6, 5 and 5, 6 and 6, I forget, somewhere along like that. And it just, everything goes crazy. And I bet I spent well over 20 hours working on that one scene.
Jeez.
Well over 20 hours, easily, probably a lot more, because I after I wrote it, I rewrote it and edited and tried to adjust wording and get things to where it was pared down to keep it moving with minimal enough information so that you could envision accurately what was happening, and stuff, without overly describing it. And man, it took a lot of time, but it turned out great. So the effort was worthwhile.
That's it. As long as the effort's worthwhile, then it's no problem at all how much hours go into it. And I mean, like you mentioned, Fear the Gods has a mixture of, you got your cosmic, you've got your action, and you got your creature feature. One thing I've noticed is generally when some authors, or I'm going to say most authors, tackle action sequences, it's very jumbled and very hard to follow. But with yours, it is really easy. It's very easy to follow what's happening. It's laid out beautifully.
That makes me feel good.
I know, because I'm a very big movie guy. I love watching action movies and all that sort of stuff. And when I write, I kind of write action sequences to be that. A paragraph is going to be a shot kind of idea, so it's very easy to follow. And you lay out the scene so people can, exactly where everyone is placed. That way you're not confused. With some other authors, they kind of just go, okay, and then he gets hit, this goes off, and you've got no idea what happened, where everything's taking place. you, as I
Yeah.
said, it's very much.
Another thing,
Hmm?
yeah. Another thing I've noticed with some other authors whose books I love the book overall, but like, it'd be that one scene that just like maybe like, yeah, like multiple opponent scenes,
Yep.
right? It's it's like watching the what do you call the games where I forget what it's called. The strategic games, where there's a
Oh,
fighting
what?
and they're like lined up, and
Yep. You're
it's
talking about
like,
like Warhammer or Final Fantasy, where you've got to wait your turn to attack.
yes, turn-based. That's
Yep.
it. Turn-based attack, right? And that's kind of the way they write it. So there's four creatures around them, and the way they describe it, like one at a time, and
Yep.
they deal with it and stuff. And that's not like the way it works. I went to a seminar with some Filipino Kali guys one time, and they were like in demonstrating like multiple opponent stuff and how you had to deal with it. They would take a person and give them like the padded stick, right?
Mm.
And then they would get three other people and put them in a semicircle around them, right? And they're like, everybody gets one beat, right? Everybody gets one beat, then everybody gets one beat, so everybody gets one beat, you and all of them. So it's like, what are you going to do with your beat, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to hit this guy. All right. So these other three people, what are they going to do with their beat? This guy's going to block. These two are going to whack, right? Because they get a beat. They don't have to, you're doing your beat here and they're going to do theirs, right? And you don't really get that in a lot of people's fighting. It turns into this more turn-based,
Yeah.
wait for this to happen and wait for that to happen, kind of a deal, when in reality it's like everything's happening at once.
Yeah. It's a brawl.
Everything's going to hell at once, which changes what you have to do to keep it realistic, because you're not going to just be able to stand there and hit this guy. You're going to be having to move on an angle out here and start to stack these people so that they all can have access to you. At the same time they got to cover more distance, which by they're spending their beat. Now it's back to me getting the beat. And so it changes tactics and the way that you would depict
Yeah.
stuff to keep the reality of it.
Yeah. Actually, you summed it up perfectly. And I mean, like, you read other authors and their action sequences are very much like a movie where you've got your main character surrounded and everyone's waiting their turn. And I think that's where it comes from, that idea of, okay, because we all watch movies, we grow up watching movies. When it comes time to watching action scenes, we do that exact same thing. We got our hero, the monsters, whoever it is, there's 4 or 5, they're each going to wait their turn because that's what we're used to seeing.
Yeah. Unless you get some of the better ones, like John Wick, that's some good stuff.
Oh yeah.
They do pretty good at multiple things are coming and he's having to adjust and all this kind of stuff. They do pretty good with that. There's some other ones out there I just can't think of off the top of my head, but I enjoy the Wick movies.
Oh yeah,
They're,
yeah. They're really
solid.
good. And I mean, that sort of character could very easily fit into a horror story. As either side.
Yes. Yeah. Could be a bit of the anti-hero. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, in that first movie, the way that the Russian Vigo, he describes John Wick, he could very easily be the villain of the story if they just changed the point of view.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Now that was said, that someone's going to do that version.
Probably.
and we won't get any credit, bastards.
Well, that's like my character Jake from Ashley's Tale. So like when I first, I don't know if you've looked at those much, but
I've read half of the first book. I'm slowly going through them.
Okay, so you know who Jake is at
Yes.
this point, right?
Yes.
So when I initially wrote Ashley's Tale, I intended it to just be, a one-shot, kind of a thing. And I had so many people that wanted to know more about Jake. They wanted to know what his motivation, his background was. And it was really interesting because I wrote that book after I had some debates with some people that I knew about um, practical applications of nihilism. We'll put it like that. People who were had a consistent belief in it, and that basically, might made right, and it was better to be strong than weak, and we don't need to worry about other people, but because they don't matter if they're not part of our group, and a number of things. But they were big into Nietzsche, and they were like consistently laying out the might makes right and the will to power, and all this kind of stuff. And I decided, instead of trying to write something, and this is generally, I mean, my beliefs as far as Christianity, morality, and different things go. I try not to preach anything in what I write. Um, I try to create concrete images of what things look like, and then you make a decision on what your opinion is on it, right?
Yeah.
And so with Ashley's Tale, it was, Jake is kind of this concrete image of, what if you really believe that kind of thing? What if you are consistent in your belief that might makes right, the will to power, and there is no morality, there is only what I can or I can't do, and various things like that. And so I used him as that concrete example, when I wrote that. But lots of people asked questions about Jake, wanting to know more about Jake. It was very interesting too to see how people responded to Jake, because you had some people that hated him, some people that absolutely loved him, and some people that were like, well, as you get towards the end, and you learn more, it's like, I can kind of agree with his, kind of some of why he's doing things, but I can't agree with his methods, or something like that. And it was interesting to see how certain people would lean that I knew online, and I had heard them espouse various things, and I was like, that's not quite jiving the opinion you have of Jake with such and such, or something like that. But so that's what I ended up going, okay, I'm gonna write a backstory on Jake. All right. And that's the second one, Making Jake.
Right.
And then after that, it was the third book picks up like 2 years after the first book ends, and everything goes crazy in that one. But it also brings the whole morality issues kind of to a head, and
Cool. Oh, I can't wait to read them now. I've got to finish. I've got to finish Ashley's Tale. You've got me very intrigued. And I mean, that's something because I've read Where the Gods Sleep, Fear the Gods. I'm waiting for the paperback of Amalgam to come out so I can get that.
Next, what is the 23rd? Friday, I think.
Yeah. Today, it's June. Yeah, it's Friday.
Yep, that's when the paperback's gonna hit.
Lovely.
Yep. I am like so stoked with the hardbacks right now, though.
I saw the pictures, and there was part of me that's like, oh, I'd love to order one of those, but being in Australia, the shipping is gonna kill you.
Yeah, I've shipped to somebody there before. And I told her at the time, I was like, you're gonna do this, you might as well go big or go home, and just get a bunch at once, right? And she did. So she bought like $60 worth of books, and
Wow.
and then paid for the shipping and got them all at one shot. But yeah, I've got like, I think 5 people total, that I think it's three Canadians and two UK people that have ordered, and it cost about 23 to ship,
Hmm.
and then plus a nice padded packing
Yeah.
envelope. So I'm charging $25,
Okay.
for shipping, international
Yeah.
shipping on that. Um, but man, they've turned out so great. They are absolutely freaking beautiful.
Well,
I did them in 8.5 by 11. So
oh,
like,
that's
actually, let me grab them. Hold on. Signed like almost half of them last night with my wife helping me. She'd number them and I'd sign them. But
oh, that's beautiful.
yeah,
That's absolutely beautiful.
yeah. So like I said, it's 8.5 by 11. It's big.
Just a bit.
Which just, to me, the art is so glorious, and it's just like having it on something this big just makes it even more so,
Well,
to
yeah.
me.
And
um
I mean, I remember when you announced you were doing, when you announced Amalgam, I was like, oh, and you just kind of gave a brief overview of what it was going to be about. I just went, yeah, I want to buy it. I was going to get it originally just for my Kindle. And then when you showed the, you did the cover reveal and it was by, Wendy Sabercore, I just went, screw it. That's got to be a physical book.
yes, he is amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with some other, cover artists, and like Francois Valancourt.
Uh-huh.
He's amazing. I love his stuff. He did Fear of the Gods, and he did Where the Gods Sleep.
Mm.
And I've seen some other ones he's done recently that are just killer looking. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really good. Brian Scott does some good stuff. He did a couple for me. And then I haven't used him yet, but Seth Barnes, I've been checking out some of his stuff. He has some really good looking stuff. But I saw Wendy's stuff like 2 years ago, and it was just like, wow, this guy is friggin'
Oh,
amazing,
yeah.
And he's done a lot of, you know, book covers for overseas stuff, because he's based in, shoot, I think it's Indonesia.
Yeah.
I have to double check. I think it's Indonesia. Um, but he's done a lot of like heavy metal albums and some movie posters and stuff over there, and just a lot of different things. But he just has this style, that when it comes to like scientific, science fiction looking, or a lot of like metal and gears, and
Yeah.
it's just he has this way, man. But I tell you, when I got him, to do the cover, when I gave him a description of my idea, what I envisioned, and then I sent him some sample scenes
Mm.
where the creature, was in the book and stuff, where he could kind of get an idea. And boom, first try.
No way.
First try. That's what he gave me. And
Jeez.
it was like, holy crap, man. You just like wham, took my vision and threw it on, threw it right there. It was amazing. And then we've got book 2 cover is done, except for me, getting the synopsis on the
Uh-huh.
back, and stuff like that. But once again, I told him my idea, wrote it down, sent him a couple of small parts that described the thing that we were going to be doing. And I mean, with that one, it was almost perfect. But I was like, shorten this here. Let's
Uh-huh.
make this bigger across the bottom. But that was it.
Wow.
Everything else was just, he nailed it, man. I can't wait to give him the descriptions for book 3 and 4. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. I am almost done writing book 3. I'm like working on the final scene on book 3, which has turned out way longer than I thought I could have could have done to start with, right?
Yeah.
I originally was thinking this would be a 3-book series, because the particular part that is book 3 now, I was like, I just don't know if I can make a full book out of that part. So I think I'll have to have that, and what I envision as the next step,
Mhm.
probably be, 1 book. And then I started writing it, and it was like all of this almost kind of like logical outworking, that because I enabled the creature to be able to do things like X, that's going to force an issue here and here, and now we have to adjust and do this. And because I had this happen, then the natural outworking is, and it was a lot of that type of stuff as I wrote it, to just make sure that everything stayed consistent and realistic, and I didn't just like ignore some things, and because, oh, that's kind of inconvenient, for where I was originally going. Now gotta have to deal with this. Deal with this, and how is it gonna look, right? And so that one, I'm actually right at 91,000 words.
Wow.
um so book 1 is Fast and Furious. It's like 42,000
Mhm.
words, so just a little bit shorter than Where the Gods Sleep. um Book 2 is right at 50, which is about the same length as Where the Gods
Yep.
Sleep. And now book 3 is like at 91 right now. And
Wow.
probably will be right at about 95, I think, or so by the time, I'm done. And then I'm not sure about book 4. Book 4 may end up being another Fast and Furious one. I'm not sure. At this point, though, it could be other things that develop, like happened with this one. But I've uh I've been so stoked, for these. I love sci-fi horror, right?
Well,
Um,
I was going to say, because behind, like you've already done a little bit of, cosmic horror, which is always rooted in sci-fi, but you got the alien, the xenomorph right behind you there.
oh yeah, man.
you know,
Dude, when I was a teenager, I had one of the original ones.
no
And
way.
yeah,
Oh,
and I after we had kids and stuff, I went through this phase where I was a big comic book collector too. I just kind of got rid of everything. And
oh,
most of it I gave to a friend that I used to, where I lived back then, which I live further away now. I haven't seen him in a while, but I gave him the Alien. I gave him a lot of my comic books and stuff, and yeah, now I'm like, man, dude, even one that's like half busted up and missing parts that will run $1,000 for the originals.
jeez.
This is one of the NECA.
Yep.
It's the, what is it? I think 18-inch. I think is the
One of the
height of
really
it.
the
Yeah.
big boys.
Yeah. And I
Oh.
actually bought it on eBay from somebody in Australia. Even with shipping from Australia, they had the best price. So I was hunting all around on eBay with these different sellers, and most of them were selling it for like minimum 300, 350. Some of them were charging, asking like 400 plus for it. And this guy in Australia, he wanted 150 plus shipping. And shipping
That's
was like 50 or 60 bucks, and I was like, sold, because that's
yeah.
still cheaper than any of the others. So yeah, I love Al.
So and I mean, when you did your cover reveal for Amalgam there, what went through my head was, okay, it's definitely got the alien vibe, but also Dead Space. That that I got full
Yep.
on necromorph Dead Space vibes from it.
I've debated on my my little elevator pitch. I didn't want to like throw too many things in, but it was like, this thing is like if Alien, The Blob, The Thing, and Dead Space, had a ravenous love child on a mining colony like years
I'm in for that.
away.
Yep.
Plus some
That,
other ideas of my own that I've thrown in there, but there's some definite homage moments, to some of these other ones.
But
But
that's, I mean, that's great. That's a really good elevator pitch because, knowing, like, having read some of your other stuff and knowing your style and everything, and then hearing it's these sort of things put together, for me, that I kind of go, oh yeah, I'm so excited. I'm more excited now just after hearing your elevator pitch.
yeah, it's, I mean, you can kind of tell with, what's on the front,
Yep.
that there's some base protoplasmic amorphous creature, kind of blobbish, right?
Yep.
But it's also taking people in, and some of it is digested and some of it is not, and so it's like assimilating parts into other places to form, and what it wants to be, or to
Yep.
to utilize or whatever, and all kinds of stuff like that. And you know it's not dumb either.
That's the important thing there. That's the important thing, that it's not dumb.
Oh yeah, because that the intelligence level actually ended up, like as I was writing book 3, parts of book 2 and book 3, it's like, oh no, that's not going to work, because this thing is smart, right? This thing is hyper intelligent, and this kind of approach, that the characters might try and make this, thinking this might work. No, this won't be good. Somebody's going to suffer, and they're going to have to figure something out. So, who's going to die? But
It sounds like you've had a lot of fun writing them.
I really have. And man, when I write certain things, as I'm writing, music's a big part of the writing process for me. It really is. And it can vary as to what I listen to when I'm, writing different things. Doesn't necessarily have to match up as far as, the vibe of each all the time. It doesn't. But I find something that helps get me in the zone, and then that's what I'm going to listen to while I'm writing. Sometimes I'm one of those people who can listen to the same damn song for hours. And I have done that in writing book 3 of the Amalgam, dude. I think a vast majority of it has been written to 2 Voivod songs. We Are Connected, and Event Horizon. Oh, and Obsolete Beings. Those 3 songs I have at different points just put them on repeat. And so the whole sci-fi, I did it early on. I was listening to the Dimension Hatros album, which is like my all-time favorite album as a whole. There's there's other music, that like individual songs I may enjoy more, but I love that album. It came out when I was in high school. I I listened to it repetitively, back then. And the cool thing about that album is it tells a science fiction story that has some horror aspects to it, really.
Okay, so
you get into, if you've never listened to it,
no,
read the lyrics.
No, what's the album called?
Okay, so the band is Voivod.
Okay.
Voivod. Voivod.
Yep.
The album is called Dimension Hatros. Hatros.
Okay. Right. Dimension Hatros. Great. Now I've got homework.
So it's got a sci-fi feeling, techno vibe mixed with metal. When I was in high school, it wasn't their first album, but Killing Technology was the one that had been out like a couple of years, I think. And then Dimension Hatros came out, and some of my friends that introduced me to them, they loved Killing Technology, and I liked some of the songs on there, including the title song, but there was some of it that I wasn't as crazy about. And then Dimension Hatred came out, and I listened to that, and I was just like blown away. I loved every song on it, some more than others, but I mean, I loved every freaking song
Yeah.
on that thing. Um, but there's some I like epic sounding stuff too. Things that have an epic feel, even if it's just in certain parts,
Mm-hmm.
will really draw me in.
Yeah.
And Dimension Hatros has a couple of songs that are like that, actually two or three that have places like that, and on that album, plus the We Are Connected song and the Event Horizon and Obsolete Beings, they all have places where they have, I describe it as this epic feeling. I don't know how else to say it. When it just feels like it washes over you and like takes you somewhere, and
Yep.
it's like building and building, kind of a thing, and just sucks you in. To me, that's kind of like epic. There's also some weird stuff that I've listened to. There's a band called Hai Long.
Oh yes.
Oh yes, dude. Some of their songs, I just put them on repeat.
And just off you.
Oh, dude, the one particularly, it's Hammer Hippier or something like that. It's like hammer, and then the second word is like HIPPYYR
Yep.
or something like that. That one, dude, it's got that steady
Yeah.
thumping, beat. Oh man, I hours, dude. I can write for hours to a single song like that.
I've done the same. I'm working on doing at the moment in the middle of planning out basically a big Viking kind of I won't say cosmic horror, but it's definitely got a Viking and creature feature kind of stuff. And I've been going through Heilung. The other one I've gone with is Scold.
Oh yeah, I've heard a little bit of their stuff.
Yeah, they've got this great cover of Seven Nation Army.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and that's just that one I can do for hours, just because it's got it's sung, they sing in English, but because it's that sort of Norse kind of epic feeling, it's just brilliant.
Oh yes, that is good stuff, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like stuff. Yeah, when you find something that helps get you in the zone, then I just want to stick with it.
Yeah.
It's like, get me in the zone and keep me there. Hit the repeat
Yep.
one. Yeah, I've done that with some of Rob Zombie's stuff. Some of Marilyn Manson's songs, have also been like that for me. It's a variety of things. When I was writing Low, I actually listened to, there was 3 albums by this band called Hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the sound of their stuff. And at the time, the vibe really gelled with the content of Low, and
Yep.
everything. And so I love music, and it's just a huge part of helping get me in the zone and keep me there.
Oh yeah, I mean, the last one I had out, which came out from Severed Press, just a creature feature set in Mexico. That one was AC/DC. Because it's about 42,000 words, and it's just full blown. It's fast paced, and going through trying to figure out, okay, what could I listen to? I hear a couple of AC/DC songs, Dirty Deeds, things like that, and I just went, that's it. That's got the rhythm. That's got the beat. Boom.
What was the name of that one?
The Valley of Bicho.
Valley of Bicho.
Yeah, okay. Basically, a group of Australian special forces goes into Mexico to extradite a Mexican drug cartel boss, and they get stranded in the Lacundan jungle. Now, the Lacundan jungle is this tropical jungle that spreads from Mexico down into Guatemala. Massive. Okay. And as they're trying to get through this jungle, they're attacked by giant insects. Yeah. It's short, nitty gritty. Basically, my elevator pitches. It's Predator, but with giant bugs and Australians.
Put another one of them things on the Barbie, mate.
If only I had that line. So if you want like a short, fun read that's just more
Mhm.
that's action with an action creature feature.
Yeah.
That's
William Meikle, has a lot of those short military creature feature type
yes.
stuff. His S Squad
Uh-huh.
series or whatever. I think he's got like 10 of them now or something.
12.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually I had him on he was like I think my seventh or eighth interview kind of,
Okay,
and
cool.
we just geeked out about action horror.
Yeah.
That was
I read the Dunfield Terror by
mhm.
him, which is kind of cosmic horror, sci-fi horror,
Yep.
kind of a mix. Really good though. I really enjoyed it. I started working on Plasm recently, which is space horror,
Mhm.
and is cool. I had read The Void by Brett Talley, which is space horror,
Yep.
and that was pretty good. And so I was checking that Plasm. Um, I kind of got sidetracked. I tend to do most of my reading by listening. I will physically read some things, and then the things that I physically read, sometimes I end up life is busy,
Yep.
and yeah, I end up having to like put it on pause for a while. But I do a lot of audiobooks. I'll listen back and forth to work each day,
Yep.
that kind of a thing.
So
But
that's I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's actually something I've been trying to figure out myself. Okay, because I'm writing full time,
mhm.
um, and it's that thing of okay, how do you find time if to read if you've got to like for example you're writing book 3, then you're going to start book 4, and I'm pretty sure you've got another 1,000 things you want to write.
Yes.
So how do you go okay, I'm gonna apart from driving going back and forth from work with audiobooks, but if you want to pick up a physical book because you can't get the audiobook because there's no audiobook,
Right.
when do you make the time? How do you make that time?
Uh, it varies. Sometimes I'll get into a habit at nighttime before bed where if it's on my Kindle,
Yep.
I'll lay there and make myself read for a while. Um, Physical books, I can do that in bed sometimes. I just kind of have to get one of those little white things, so I don't disturb my wife if she's trying to fall asleep, by keeping a bunch of lights on or whatnot. But yeah, or sometimes I will try to read at work on my
Mm-hmm.
like a lunch break, during my lunch break or something. I'll take the book with me, and do it there. So it's just trying to find, moments when I won't be tired and end up falling asleep, because that can happen with the physical books. I've gotten to where I read a lot more physical book stuff is actually where I'm reading comic books.
Yeah.
And I have those. There's an app called Comixology, which is
Uh-huh.
kind of like KU, like Kindle Unlimited, but for comics. And so you can get access for the $5 a month. You get access to a bunch of stuff that you can borrow from their library. And then it also, functions as anything you buy, it holds it there, online like Kindle. But there is, it is, and this goes back kind of with, amalgam, as far as, why did I choose to write this? Because I love space horror and sci-fi alien horror and stuff like that. And it's hard to find. I
Mm.
mean, when you go in groups like Books of Horror and some of these other ones, and somebody makes a post about, hey, what's some recommendations for, space horror particularly, um, if they go sci-fi horror, you get a little bit longer
Mm.
list, but space horror is a very narrow list unless you start, naming off all of the alien books, that have
Uh-huh.
been written, that are based off of the comics and some of the more recent, ones that different people have done, the Out of the Shadows, River of Sorrow, River of Pain, Sea of Sorrow, Bug Hunt, different
Mm-hmm.
ones that have been written by some, known authors here recently. Unless you start like targeting in on that stuff that's derived from the movie, it is difficult to find space horror, and even more difficult to find good, good space horror. It's like the movies. You can
Yep.
find some space horror movies, but a lot of them are B movies, just like, ugh, right? But that's the stuff I love. And so it's like, as an author, what do you do when there's not enough stuff of what you love? Well, you write it yourself, I guess, you know?
Yep. No,
um,
that makes perfect sense. I mean, like everything I've ever written, it's just been a case of, well, I want to read it, or that's it.
bingo. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. Um, so, that was kind of where some of the motivation came, to do it. Uh, Initially, it started out as a long short story. There was a open submission call for a space horror anthology, and
Is
it
that the one from
happened.
Silver Shamrock?
No,
Okay.
this was before that.
Okay.
Um, who was it? It was the same guys that are putting out all the splatter westerns, Death's Head Press.
Yep.
They put out a sub at the end, near the end of 2019. And then when COVID stuff kicked off, they just kind of scrapped it, and everything. And I originally wrote, it was about, it was long. I was like, it went over the short story limit. It was like 14,000 words, or something like that. But it was a really abbreviated version of it. And didn't have all of the characters that I ended up in there now, but I wrote it for that. And then when that got tanked, it was like I had already been thinking, I could do more with it. I could add characters, I could do this, I could do that. I was already thinking about that. So when they said that they were just kind of closing it up and putting it on pause, I was like, well, I'll withdraw because I'm gonna expand this thing, and boy, did I, before I knew it, I had ideas for 3 books that turned into 4 books, and so man, ran with it, but that was where it kind of started.
Okay.
As a short story or a long short story, for that I ended up deciding to expand on. But yeah, it's hard to find that stuff, movies and books. It's difficult to find good space horror.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone would do, as you said, science fiction horror. That's easy, and
Mhm.
cosmic horror is an offshoot of all that in a way, so that's easy. Yeah, I actually can't think of like good proper space horror.
Mhm.
That's not like related to aliens or
Right.
even Predator or I mean
Yeah.
Dead Space, even Event Horizon. Now I do it, I think
Mhm.
Event Horizon, it's a
Oh yeah, I
great,
love it.
good, bad movie that
Mhm.
has so much potential. Apart from all that, though, there's not really much else that springs to mind.
Yeah, it's limited for sure, and as far as writing goes, I mean, there's been Brett Talley has The Void.
Mm,
There's one out there I read a few years ago that's really good called Crescent,
okay.
by a guy named Phil Rossi, which is kind of a blend of cosmic horror and space horror. It takes place on a space station, kind of a deal.
Yep.
But it still falls into that, with the space horror. But um, there's a few other things people can list off, but people will list off The Luminous Dead right now by Caitlin Starling, I think it was, which okay, it takes place on another planet, but it's a underground caving book,
Not
right?
spe- that's
So
that's
it's I don't really count. I mean, it was good. I listened
mm,
to the audiobook. I thought it was pretty well done. Um, there were some things at certain points with the character that kind of annoyed me, but overall, it was a solid book. It was a good read, a good listen. Um, but it's primarily a caving kind
yeah.
of book on another planet, so I really don't count it as space horror, kind of a thing. So it's difficult to find good ones. So I'm like, You know what? I'm all right one.
Well, from like, I mean, from the reaction, like when you've announced or you've, like, because I commented when you put out on Books of Horror Authors group, you put out the the blurb for Amalgam. And you're like, okay, what does everyone think? I'm pretty sure I made a comment about it, but it was that sort of thing. Whenever you've put out, you've done any announcement in regards to it or the other books, everyone just seems to go, yes. It seems like everyone's really excited for it.
Yes. Yes, I think so. And I personally would love to see a lot of people write some good space horror. It's like I would like to see, and I've actually had some thoughts. I've like talked with a couple of other authors about some ideas that I had, but it would be great to somehow do a space horror what Death's Head Press has done with the Western horror.
Ooh, yeah.
To just get some good people that want to write that kind of stuff to throw it down and get it out there. Yeah, it doesn't. I'll have to be under one label, but man, I would love to see more. More of that happen. But um, I don't know if you noticed, but I decided to create my own kind of self imprint for
Yes.
publishing this, and I have other space horror ideas for novellas and some and stuff that are going to come down the pipe later. But yeah, the Space Yeti.
Yeah, it's I remember when you announced it, I just sat there going, that's a great name. And then I looked at the logo once again, Wendy Sabercore.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, that's gonna look beautiful on any book.
Oh yeah. It actually, and Brian Scott, he has been doing my formatting for the last couple of books or so, and actually for a few before that. But starting with Fear the Gods, in Fear the Gods, the scene breaks.
Yes.
He used the image, of the skull on the cover. He like pulled that and used that for the scene breaks. He did the same thing with just the space helmet and the Yeti skull.
Oh,
So that's
nice.
the scene breaks, in the book, man. He does a great job with the
Oh,
formatting
that's
stuff
awesome.
as well. So um yeah, when he asked me on Fear of the Gods, he was like, so for the scene breaks, instead of just doing stars or something, what do you think about using a picture or using an image or something? I'm like, what do you got? What's your idea? And he was like, well, I can pull, the skull image on the cover. I'm like, really? It's like, holy crap, yes, let's see what that looks like. And it was badass. I was like, yes. So when we went to do Amalgam, it was like, can you do
Yep.
space anything? He's like, yeah. So,
Oh, that's
super
awesome.
super cool, super cool. He's great. He's another one that's really great to work with, whether it's cover art or formatting, because he does both and he does both well. Yeah,
Oh
he's
yeah. Well, I remember when I was reading Fear the Gods, because nearly every other book does just the asterisks for a scene break. It's like, I'm reading it and hit the first scene break. I'm like, wait a minute.
oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's okay. That's the scene break. That's really cool. I'm pretty sure it was a one-off. Maybe it was a one-off. Got to the next scene break. I'm like, okay. And it just adds a little bit of
Yeah,
extra.
yeah, that was his idea, man. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it, man.
And you're going to continue it in
He
every other book.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, for all the Amalgam books, I'll use the Space Yeti thing. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, any other books that I do, different things, I probably will. At least the ones that I self-publish, I will, have something like that, that him and I will come up with. You know, he did a lot of the interior art on Where the Gods Sleep.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't.
So my buddy John Peevahouse, he did the Karabathith,
Mm-hmm.
the big head. Um, actually, that's the original art
Oh,
right there that he did.
oh, that's
Right.
beautiful.
Um, and then he did that one as well that was in
Oh,
there. Right.
wow.
And then he did the black and white one, the black and white penciled one with the ritual scene,
Hmm.
with the naked chicks and the bear head and all the, all that stuff. So John's a good friend of mine. He's actually the one we started martial arts together. He was the
Ah,
one whose neighbor was the kung fu guy, and we got into it together, and we were great friends in high school. He was like 1 year behind me, and but we used to hang out, martial arts stuff, heavy metal. He was always a great artist, even back then. I was telling him, man, you're killer. He did such good work, and the last few years I've been encouraging him to do more with it, and now he's got a good following on Instagram. He's been entering some contests in different places and doing some really cool stuff. And last year I got him to go to the Scares That Cares horror convention
oh,
and set up a table, and he was floored. He did such good business last year. He even
wow.
had somebody from Canada that came down, bought that ritual one from Where the Gods Sleep for like almost $300. They bought the original
Oh,
from him for it. So he was floored, man. It
yeah.
was
But it's
great.
it's amazing artwork, and I mean, what I mean, why did you kind of go, okay, I'm going to include these, you know, these moments of, like amazing art? What was the thinking behind that?
I, it's as you're trying to build your fan base, and increase your exposure and stuff, it's I've always been one of these people, and some of the guys that I work with when I first started down there, they were like, they said one day after I just went all out, trying to do something like off road, they were like,
Yep.
like, see, like, I don't think anybody could get through that hole. And I'm like, well, hold on, I'll try, or whatever, and I'm just like wide open, and one of the guys was like, I like you, dude. You're go big or go home. That seems to be your attitude. And I'm like, you know what? Looking back in life, that has been my attitude on a lot of things, man. Go big or go home. And as an author, trying to work myself up, some of my ideas have been to do things that other people wouldn't necessarily do,
Hmm.
right? Or to do things that other people were at the same kind of level that I'm at currently wouldn't do.
Yep.
I invested my money into that artwork, all because it was 5 pieces from Brian Scott. He did that gorgeous bluish pyramid with the
Yep.
light. He did that one, and then he did a lot of the other ones that were little scenes that just kind of put an image in your head of something that
Hmm.
was going on. And then John did those 3, and Francois Valancourt did the double A act. But all in all, it was 9 pieces of art and the cover art. And if I remember right, I spent somewhere around 1,200 or more on just the art, right?
Wow.
Um, and which was a lot. But I hoped, and it came out not long before Scares That Care in 2019, and I had Brian kind of combine the pyramid and the Karabathith and everything, and I had this big roll up pull up display thing to put there by my table, and um something to grab people's attention,
Yep.
because it's tough for indie writers and self-publishing writers and stuff. You don't have this big marketing base,
Yep.
like the big authors did back in the day. Now there's a huge number of people, even within the horror community, though it's smaller than others, there's still a huge amount of authors out there. And the way it feels like is, we're all in this ocean, and how do you like lift yourself up above the waves of everybody else so that you can first just be seen, right? And have a chance that somebody may go, oh, that's interesting,
Oh
kind of
yeah,
a deal.
it's
And then maybe read the description on your book, and then maybe give it a shot or whatever. And so it's like, doing little things like that, like paying for that step up in the artwork, for the cover, and then including the interior art, and stuff like that is something that's a little wow factor, and that grabs people, works. And it's partly with the Amalgam books. Wendy ain't cheap.
yeah,
He's worth it.
yeah.
I mean, he's worth it, but he ain't cheap. Now, I won't say exactly what I paid, but I did get a deal because I contracted him for all 4 covers.
Yeah.
So he gave me a lower rate. But that man is like regularly, like on his website, it's right out there, like 750, 800.
Oh yeah, I
per cover.
yeah. Oh yeah, I tried to get him for something, and when he told me how much, I kind of went. At that point, couldn't afford it at all.
Yeah. And but doing this hardback thing, I realized that I can cover most of my expenses, pretty much the majority of my expenses, through just the sales on the hardback if I sell 100 of them, right? And so people are, I mean, right now I just had like 8 more people today tell me they wanted one. So I am up to like 80 or 81 out of 100 are spoken for now.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, basically whatever's left at the end of next week is I'm going to the Scares That Cares convention, and I'll take whatever's left with me
and just
and see if I can sell the rest there. But I have just been blown away by this many. This is my first time ever doing a hardback, first time ever doing any kind of a limited print run, special signed edition, all that kind of stuff. And it's just been crazy cool that this many people want it.
Well, I mean,
I think a lot of that, I mean, part of it is the content of the story and all that, and me, but that Wendy Core, Saber Core cover, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm putting out the money for it, but I think it's paying off for itself, at the same time, because people want something that looks glorious, man. I know I would. I mean, it's like I'm writing what I would like to read. I'm creating I like hardcovers that have like the comic book hardcovers that have it in, case print or whatever they call it, where it's art is on the cover. No, I don't dust jacket and black covers.
It's gotta be
never like art right on the cover. That's the way I like it. I made it big because that's the way I like it. I like the comic book graphic novels. A lot of the time you get ones, you get those oversized ones, and that's kind of what I was aiming for. I mean, not quite as big as some that I've had, because I've got a couple around here that are, like this, and but that the size with great art is just glorious, man.
Well, yeah. And are you going to do a limited run of hardcovers for the other 3 books?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I am definitely going to do it. One, just because you can't do just one. If you've got a bunch of other kick-ass covers, you got to do it. But also because this is going to be the first thing that I put out where pretty much with the hardback sales, when the ebook and the paperback drop, I'm in the positive, and not way behind. Like Where the God Sleeps, I mean, I love it, and I love the book, but I definitely was in the hole on that one as far as how much money I put into it for a long time. I might be getting up there close now to breaking even on that one. But yeah, so this will be the first time I've ever been kind of broke even or a little bit into positive right at the beginning.
Wow,
And
that's amazing. And I mean, I have to admit, I've shown a lot of my friends and I've shown my family the cover for Amalgam, and they were like, damn,
Go big or go home, man.
Well, a friend of mine said it perfectly. He goes, so what? He's got permission to write a spin-off for Dead Space? That was exactly what one of my friends said. I couldn't help myself. I said yes.
Nice.
But it's that sort of thing. If I reckon if you said, okay, I'm going to release this as a poster as well.
Oh, actually.
Oh, really?
Okay, so for the convention, right? For the convention. So with last year, with COVID, they didn't have it. Year before was when I had to wear the God Sleep. And I had this, I went on Vistaprint and got this professional grade. It was like, this wide and like 6.5 feet tall, and it just and you pull it up and prop it up, it's one of these little display things, right? But when I got done, and then I didn't get to do any other stuff on the heels of it, convention wise or whatnot. Yeah, went in the closet, so this time they also have a combination of things. So one of them was the metal print signs, where the image is printed on like polished aluminum or something like that. And so I, instead of going with the big standard thing, I got I think it's like 36 by 24.
Wow.
Right? Metal sign version of it. And then they also will do posters of stuff. You can even get them laminated. And so I did about 20 laminated posters. And so I'm waiting for them. I ordered them like 2 days ago. So we'll see how it looks. And I got some magnets and stuff like that, some stickers.
Oh,
I did some magnets of the Amalgam cover that are like 5x3. I did some of the Space Yeti. I did some stickers and some buttons, of those. So
nice.
I was looking at some prices for baseball caps, put the Space Yeti thing on, and I'm checking into maybe a t-shirt version of the Amalgam cover.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff you can do with Vistaprint and some other places.
Oh yeah. And
my buddy John, the artist guy, like last year when he came, he had a bunch of stickers and buttons and stuff like that too to go along with all his prints. And I was like, dude, where did you get this? And it was something called, I think, mule sticker or mule, something like that. I'd have to look it up for sure. But they do stickers, buttons, magnets, and a bunch of other stuff. And then Vistaprint does a whole slew of things. I even I got a mouse pad with the Amalgam, for myself, but it's like I can, with something that is that good.
Yeah.
Right? Something that is that good, it gives me the option to ask people, like, would you be interested in, because it is that good. They might just want a poster or a t-shirt or a freaking nice pad or something, right?
Honestly, if the covers for books 2, 3, and 4 are as good as that cover, personally, I'd be like, I'd want a full set of those as a full poster set. That's the sort of thing for me personally. I'd be like, I'd love that up on the wall. It's just
And so like that's like when I did the metal sign this time, because I told my wife, I was like, last time with the roll-out thing, it just went back in the closet. I can put this on my wall in my office, man. After the after the convention is over, I'm gonna have this monster amalgam cover metal sign, on above my computer where I write. So yeah, the second cover is done and it's awesome, man. It really does look awesome. I'll send you a picture and show it to you.
Please do.
It's it's different, it's not going to be, like the same type of thing. So it's different, and each one I'm trying to, with the subsequent ones, I'm trying to kind of focus on, like, and what is the theme of that book, what's the theme of what's happening, and then maybe, utilizing a particular scene that kind of embodies that, and then, that's
Cool.
it's gonna be, that's the cover, right? So what I told him for this one is the second one, there's this spaceship. Well, not a spaceship. It's a ship that's designed to recover other ships, right? So recovering derelict spaceships, or broken down, half destroyed, or stuff like that. I came up with this idea for this recovery ship, right? And it's literally shaped like a centipede, right? And they call it the Pede. That's their nickname for it. They call it the Pede, right? And I sent him, I told him my ideas. I sent him the description scenes where it's described in the book, and how it's, being utilized to recover, retrieve something, and Tootie freaking nailed it. Like I said, I just kind of like, cut this a little shorter here, make this ship bigger here, but that was it, dude.
Nice.
It looks killer. It looks killer. So, you've got this centipede, technological, mechanical, looking ship, and then you've got the alien ship at the bottom, that they're like trying to retrieve. It looks great.
Oh,
it
man.
looks great. And I've got the idea for 3. I think it is cool, and it will be kick-ass. But the one that the idea I have for 4 is going to be freaking crazy, man. I am telling you right now. I shared it with my editor like a couple of weeks ago, and all her response was, "Oh my God." That was what she sent me back in Messenger. "Oh my God." And so it's going to be a crazy cover on number 4, man. Ooh. 4 is going to be wild.
Awesome.
And it's going to match the ideas I have for the finale too. So I'm so stoked.
I can't wait. I can't wait to read Amalgam. I can't wait to see, before you do the cover reveals for the next 3 books, man. I'm gonna be getting all of them.
Yeah, I'm super excited to wrap up 3, because my ideas for 4, I'm ready to get working on the finale, man. I got some other stuff I've got to knock out too. Like this week, I got to finish my first round of edits on book 2, and get that off to my editor. She said she needs to get on that. So I'm hoping to wrap up 3 tomorrow and do some of the edits on 2, and then a little bit more, probably on Wednesday, Thursday, and then get it to her by the end of the week. And I've got a long short story I need to write. The word count was like 10,000 is what they were looking for, but I got invited to a anthology that focuses around the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, from D&T Publishing?
No, it's Ella Eleanor Mary and
Oh,
her,
yep. The
the
lady, the
Macabre
lady.
lady.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
Macabre
yes,
lady.
yes.
Yeah. Um, so I've got Lust.
Oh, you'd be able to do plenty with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wrote a story that was in the Sinister Smile publications,
Yep.
guys, and they had their series of
Hmm.
anthologies. I was in this. I had a story in the second one called Carnival of Lust,
Ooh.
and it's uh, I pulled some stuff from my youth and kind of slid it in there from like when I was a kid, and the kid with the character in there as far as being exposed early to certain things, or whatnot.
Mm.
But then, going with how you know lust is such a powerful emotion, and it can really overcome people and
Yeah.
overwhelm them and destroy them, as well, and but it all revolves around this like 8 or 9 year old kid going to the carnival,
Ooh.
in that one. But I've got some crazy ideas for this one for the Macabre Ladies anthology. It's going to be some wild mix of various things, possibly even a little bit of a cosmic horror, hints of that, but it's going to be some weird supernatural cultish elements
Oh,
mixed in with
nice.
lust and all that. And at least that's my ideas right now. I had an idea for another one that was going to involve alien abduction
Hmm.
working in with a lust aspect that was had
That's
some interesting connotations and things just to kind of play around with it. But I was like, which one should I do? And I've decided to go with the other one, and I'll put that one on hold for a while. But um, so that I got to knock at like 10,000 words or so for that. But other than that, Amalgam Book 4 is,
is the next.
that's what's going to be on my plate, in the near future. Um, I gotta tell you too, man, I've been just amazed at how much I've written this year and last year. Um, I've written. I started on book 3. It was like the end of February, I think.
Wow.
And I've written 91,000 words since then.
That's amazing.
And part of that, early on in March, my son was visiting, and I was spending a lot of time with him playing Xbox and stuff. So I don't think I really got hard into it until near the end of March, man. And I've had multiple weeks where I was writing 10,000 a week, just
Wow.
consistently, and um, crazy. Yeah, I look back last year, and last year I was struggling big time with. So I have neck issues from
Hmm.
an accident that I had out there at work where I jacked and compressed a disc, to the point where
Yes.
the jelly inside came out, and ended up having a disc replacement infusion, and stuff
Oh,
like that. And I
whoa.
did good for a while, and then it started going back downhill. And all last year I was fighting with numerous migraines and all this stuff, and I I really felt like I wasn't being productive at all. And then I went back and I counted like everything that I wrote last year up to back in, I think it was back in March that I was figuring it up to there. So it was like, 15 months or something. And I figured up everything that I had written, and it came up like 156,000 words. And I just couldn't believe
Damn.
it. It
Damn.
was like,
That's
I couldn't believe it because I had taken, when COVID hit, and we got put on furlough for like almost 2 months.
hmm.
And during that time, I wrote, I think it was like 60 plus thousand words or something, during that time. I lengthened where I had a novella that was like um it was like 30 some thousand words, I think. I expanded that to 70. And that is a book that actually got picked up by Silver Shamrock. That was the one I announced a while back. The House of Smarva. It's a supernatural, horror storyline with like evil kid, demonic possession, haunted house kind of mashup kind of stuff. I expanded that by like 40. And then I had another novella that I'm probably going to release that later this year, whenever my editor has time to get around to it, in addition to Amalgam and the other stuff. But it's that one is my elevator pitch for that one would be if Quentin Tarantino did Karate Kid.
Oh.
It is a balls to the wall action with a coming of age, with action and some horror aspects, but more thriller. But there's sex trafficking and gangs and bullying of immense proportions and fighting back, and all this kind of stuff mixed in there.
Nice.
And so I expanded that from like 25 to 50. So now it's it's novel length. But yeah, I've been on a roll last year.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of had a rhythm here recently, so it's going good, and I'm just like, let me stick with this.
Yeah. Oh,
keep the voivod on.
Yep, just get into the zone and ignore everything.
Yep, let's go. And decompress with playing some Xbox here and there. I love Mechwarrior. I'm playing Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries. I've been addicted to that here lately. And my son was here back in February and part of March. We were playing all kinds of stuff. We played through a bunch of Gears of War, some Halo stuff, Star Wars Battlefront games, and all that kind of stuff. But I ended up the Star Wars Battlefront 2 that's out currently. That is really good.
Yeah,
it is a really fun game, and you can do multiplayer online, or you can do like these co-op stuff online with a group of like 3 other people. And it's fun to just, if you want to jump on there for 30 minutes, or an hour and just shoot some shit, decompress a little, it is fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, I know we've both got it right, and I mean I could keep doing this for another couple of hours because I'm enjoying it. But I know we see this is the tragedy of being working authors. We've got to get the words down, isn't it?
That's very true.
So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on, and
it's been a great time, man.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy to have you come on again. Honestly,
this was a blast.
And man, I'm now really tempted to get one of those hardbacks. Seeing one of those, it's just like, oh man, that's really tempting.
Yeah,
I got to think about it. You probably will get a message from me at some point saying, "You got any left over?"
Well, we're up to like 80 or 81 now.
Ooh, I've got to think fast.
Gotta think fast. Yep.
Yes.
Seize the day. Go big or go home.
Exactly. Mike, thank you so much for coming on, man. This was a blast.
Oh, man. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And once again, a very big thank you to Mike for coming on today. You can find links to his work in the description below. I'm RF Blackstone. This is Behind the Keyboard, and as always, stay spooky.